But it is very serious what took place at the border. It's very serious what took place at the border on November 25th at 6 o'clock. We just thought it would be routine, hand in your passports as you cross the border, and we were heading to the talk at the Vancouver Public Library. And once they had our passports, they told us to pull over. We had to go into the facility, and it was there that they started to ask me this series of questions. First, they said, "We want your notes on your speech tonight," which I was shocked by. But we were already now late for the talk. They ended up holding us for well over an hour. And I went out to the car, and I picked up the book, and I brought it inside, and I handed it to the guard and said, "I'll be reading columns from the book." And he said, "I want your notes." I said, "Well, I really speak extemporaneously, but it'll be the basis of my talk." Actually, I said I begin with the last column, which is about Tommy Douglas, the Premier of Saskatchewan. We were at the Douglas Crossing, by the way. They insisted there was no connection. But I said I'd be talking about Tommy Douglas, the Premier of Saskatchewan, because he is considered one of the greatest Canadians and pioneered the whole universal health care plan, Medicare, that you have here. He also happens to be, but we'll talk about that in a second, related to a famous actor in the United States. But he wasn't interested in any of that. He said, "What else are you going to be talking about?" So I said, well, the whole health care reform debate in the United States. What else are you going to be talking about? Oh, global warming. What else are you going to be talking about? The global economic meltdown. What else are you going to be talking about? The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. What else are you going to be talking about? I said, well, that pretty much does it. And he said, are you going to be talking about the Olympics? And I said, I don't live here. I did not exactly know what he was referring to. I thought he was talking about, and I said, do you mean when President Obama went to Copenhagen to push for the Olympics to come to Chicago? And he said, no, you didn't even get them, the Olympics. And so I said, I know. And he said, I'm talking about the Olympics here in 2010. And I said, I didn't want to insult him, but I said, no, I wasn't planning to talk about your Olympics. And he said, you're saying you're not talking about the Olympics? He clearly didn't believe me. Do you all just constantly talk about the Olympics? But it definitely piqued my interest because he is seriously concerned. And I said that was not what I was planning to talk about. He was taking notes while I was speaking on a piece of paper, and his coworker, another guard, they were all armed, was inputting everything into a computer. And when the fellow guard wasn't inputting things into a computer, he was reading the book, which I think could have a good effect. But he was reading the columns. Then they said that I had to follow them. Then they went out to the car and they started rifling through all of our documents, everything in the car. They opened my colleague's computer. They opened Dennis's computer. When I went out, one of the computers were open and he was going through it and he told me to get back inside. I saw them going through our bags. When Dennis came out and opened his computer, it was in his email. It's a serious violation. Then we were continuing to wait. Later and later had called the Vancouver Public Library. And when they came back in, they told me to follow them into a back room. I did, and they took my picture, and they made 4 copies of the picture. They said they were going to use it for a document they were giving. I said, I don't understand. I didn't think we need a visa to come into Canada from the United States. And they said this would be a control document that they would give us. And they took pictures of Dennis and Chuck and put the pictures into this document, this control document. And when we opened the document, they stapled it to our passport. It said that we had to leave by tomorrow at midnight. We had to leave Canada by tomorrow at midnight. I thought you all felt that people coming to Canada was a good thing, especially with his major concern about the Olympics that are coming up. But it said we have to leave by midnight tomorrow and that we have to check in with the authorities when we leave. This is very serious. There is supposed to be a separation of the press and the state. That's what makes a democracy healthy. We are supposed to be a check and balance on power, and they're not supposed to be checking our documents. They're not supposed to be, I don't mean our passport, but our notes, our computers. They're not supposed to be rifling through them. It's not only a violation of freedom of the press, but it's a violation of your right to know. Because if journalists fear that they're going to be monitored, that they're going to be surveilled, that they're going to be detained, it's more difficult and they'll be more afraid to get out information. And that is a disservice to a democratic society. It means the information you won't have. And information is power. It empowers you to make informed decisions about critical issues and enables you to have debates that lead to public policy, that lead to the conduct of your country. It was a very serious violation. I am still really very troubled, to say the least, about what happened, stunned by what happened on the border last night. We finally left and got to the talk about an hour and a half late.